The easiest way is always to start with the biggest frame. I mean, it's hard to start with a 7/8 or a 5/8 or anything with 8 or 16s, So, but if you start with a 5/4 or a 7/4 or a 9/4, then it's easier because it's still feeling like a straightforward groove, but you add one more quarter note. So it's just adding a note and try to internalize this extended groove example. So, and from there you can always go like in the smaller frame, like in a 7/8 or a 9/8 or whatever. But I think starting with the bigger one is definitely helpful because you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. So at least it helped me to get into it a little bit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Drum for the Song podcast. My name is Dane Campbell. I am your host, and today I'm thrilled to be with my special guest, Anika Nilles. Hope I pronounced that correctly. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for agreeing to come on the show. I was hoping to get you on after seeing you play in Cardiff a few months ago.
Yeah.
It was very, very impressive. But we'll talk a little bit about that tour in a little while, if that's okay. First, we'd like to start with how you originally got into the drums and playing drums. I understand you come from a musical family.
Yeah, kind of. So my parents were both musicians, but more like in their free time, so no professional musicians. But I grew up with drums around me. So my dad was playing the drums and his band was rehearsing in our basement. And so I got into it really early on.
Wow.
And yeah, and I think it's also because of my dad, because he was just realizing that I have an interest in this instrument, and he was just supporting me, and my mom was supporting me, especially at a time where like it wasn't usual to be a girl on the drums in a small town where I grew up, at least. It was not the usual thing, Yeah. So yeah, but I got into drums like as I was 5 or 6 years old.
Wow. That's around a similar time to myself, I think. I think I was around 5 or 6. My dad played guitar, but he introduced me to the drums, and I think he saw that I was more interested in that, or had maybe more of a natural ability in that. So fairly similar stories. But I wish I could play like you. So like, was it like when you started getting into the drums seriously, did you have any specific like influences or bands or music that you listened to that really inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with the early Michael Jackson stuff and Toto. So
wow.
That was what I listened the most as I was 10, 11, 12. And then I started off listening more to like rock music. So I listened a lot to Skunk and Nancy, for example.
They're like one of my favorite bands when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Mark Richardson has been on the show, and that was amazing. But anyway, sorry.
I met him once. That was a big thing for me.
Yeah. He's really good.
Yeah. So rock music was the thing I listened to and I grew up with. But early on it was definitely Michael Jackson and Toto.
I can kind of understand that from listening to your music. That is kind of funky, but kind of proggy in a way, but really melodic and catchy. Yeah, really, really like your music. But that makes sense now. But cool. I'm glad I've met another Skunk and Nancy fan, because these days, even though they they still tour really well. I think they've got a hardcore fan base. I don't meet many other
Yeah, they're
people.
still touring. I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I never saw them live actually.
Oh no.
Yeah, I have to do that on some point, I guess.
Yeah, you should definitely do
Yeah.
it if they're touring next year, if your schedule allows it. I recommend it. Mark hits so hard and he's so tight and on it, and the band are really great. So I would recommend it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, like some of my listeners, I'd say half of them are drummers and half of them are not drummers. So like Anika is you're pretty big in the drum world. You're an award-winning drummer, if you know what I mean, and you've been on covers of magazines and things like that. Is there any particular award or feat that you've already completed that you're more, surprised by or excited about so far in your career?
I mean, the most the biggest thing for me was, I guess, the cover on the Modern Drummer magazine.
Yeah.
That's a big thing in the drumming scene and drum community.
It is.
And that this came up, that was surprising me at that point. And also like, yeah, being on a cover of a magazine where so many huge drummers, like everyone out there who is famous, Vinny, Dave, Weckl, Taylor Hawkins, all those guys have been on this cover, and it's like, a big thing. I mean, awards are always just nice to have on some point, but it's not really important to me.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'm thankful to have a couple of such awards. That means that people really like what I do and and like the drumming and the stuff I'm doing. So that's really nice to know, actually.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it means people approve of what you do, like on a large scale. Maybe some of these are voted for by like readers and listeners and stuff. So it means I think it does mean a lot. So, but yeah, the Modern Drummer cover must have been amazing. That was quite earlier on in your professional career, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2017.
Oh,
so yeah, basically 4 years after I started what I do or what I did that time. So I'm now changing a little bit something in my music and in my playing. But I started with YouTube actually in 2014 by, I would say, accident, actually. It wasn't planned at all to start a career like this. But but 4 years after that, the Modern Drummer cover came up, and that was, like I said, very surprisingly, because it just came after 4 years.
That's very impressive, very impressive. But congratulations. That is one mean feat, I must say. So you recently just come off a tour with Jeff Beck, a really long tour, actually. I was lucky enough to be at the first show in Cardiff. I think that was the first show. And it was amazing. First of all, how did it go? How was it?
I mean, that's an amazing experience, and it felt amazing. I mean, Jeff is just an amazing guitarist and also a great person, a great human being. So I had a good time in all those weeks and months on tour, honestly. Yeah. But Cardiff was also tough to me, because it was not only the first show in the tour and the first show with Jeff, it was also the first show which I had to play with my left foot on the kick.
Yeah, and I noticed that, and I was like, is that maybe what she does all along, and I just never knew? Or and then I remember you did a little story about it on social media, and I was wow, I was so impressed.
But that helped a little bit to be like not that much nervous about playing with Jeff. It was more like, that I was nervous because it was the first gig I ever played with my left foot on the kick. So otherwise, I probably would have been more nervous in a different direction. But that was actually nice to just be focused on the drumming and not too much on, okay, that's the first show with Jeff Beck and a lot of people are in the audience. And, so that's usually how it works when you are new in a band or playing with the artist. And first show is always a bit like wacky with the nerves, probably.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I imagine it must have been, quite daunting, filling, the drum throne of so many amazing drummers that have sat there before. Like, unbelievable amount of amazing drummers have had that job, and it's just crazy. But so with regards to the left foot, obviously it was an injury. How long before the tour did you have that injury? So how long did you have to practice with just your left foot?
I had almost 4 days.
That is all. Wow.
That was all, yes. So it happened basically 4 days before I had to fly over to the UK. And in these 4 days, I just was trying to figure out if I'm able to play the shows at all. Because I don't play double pedal. Now I'm starting with it because of the injury. But before I didn't play any double pedal. So that was totally new to me. And I really had to learn how to play specific things with the left foot. And at some point I thought, okay, it's working out somehow. Let's do it. Crazy.
Yeah. It's amazing that you actually went ahead and did it, and you smashed it. Everyone in the audience thought you smashed it. I remember I was with my family. I'm the only drummer in the family. They play drums a little bit, but they don't know so much about all the drummers in the industry. So I was aware of you and all your work beforehand. And I said, you've got to check out the drummer. She's going to be amazing. And then when they realized you were playing with a left foot, they just couldn't believe it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But it must have been just because a lot of drummers, we go on muscle memory, right? So there's lots of patterns you learn, right, left, and then right, left with your feet, and different combinations of that. And that's pretty much it. So having to replace a right foot with your left on everything that you've learned or prepared for this set list must have been crazy. But you've obviously got quite a good brain when it comes to mathematics with all the with the odd timing that you're well known for playing. But yeah, it's amazing. I don't think many other drummers could have done that.
Yeah, I mean, the fills were tricky. The fills were the stuff which was the most tricky part, but the grooves were fine, actually. The grooves were working out.
Yeah.
For the fills, I had different solutions on hand then.
Yeah. Very impressive. No, very impressive. So one thing that I don't think I've personally read about was, how did you get that job? Did they approach you? Did you audition? Or how did that process come about, if you don't mind me asking?
That was actually pretty simple because Jeff told me he saw my videos, and then his manager was reaching out to me, basically asking if I'm interested in playing with Jeff. And then I flew over to his place, and we rehearsed a bit and jammed also a bit and talked. And after 3 days, I flew back home, and that was it.
Easy. Well, not easy, but it sounds like a nice, relaxed way of doing it.
Yeah. It was really, really good to meet him before, and playing with him. That made me really relaxed also for the tour and for the rehearsals and all that stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Is it, how many, it was a long tour, and I know you do a lot of teaching and clinics and stuff like that. Was that one of the longest times you've been on the road for, would you say, or have you done things like that before?
No, it was definitely the longest time I've been on the road. With the clinics, it's probably the longest was a month.
Right.
But for touring, that was definitely the longest. And everything else I had to reschedule, and you know how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So how much time passed until you could reintroduce the right foot?
Actually, it took 9 weeks. Wow. Almost the full tour. I just could start playing with the right foot in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I mean, probably I started in the eighth week, but super soft, and also was playing some songs with the left foot and some with the right foot to start slowly. And then at some point I started with the right foot again.
Nice. That was very impressive anyway. I think it's probably the first person on the podcast that has had to do that. But so one thing that got into the media about that tour was, I don't know if it was a few days after Cardiff, that a very famous person named Johnny Depp joined the tour. Did you know that was going to happen, or was that a surprise? And like, how was it playing on stage with him?
No, we knew about that. So we knew that he will join the tour, and I also met him before, so it was like a planned thing, kind of. I mean, playing with Johnny Depp and Jeff Beck is a experience itself. I mean, absolutely new to me, playing with both, like in this like level of musicians, and this is absolutely huge.
But not many people can say they've done that, in fairness. There's a rumor I heard that there was an Indian restaurant or some dinner with a really huge bill, and Johnny Depp paid the bill. Is there any truth in that, or is that just make believe?
I don't know about the rumor. I think we did a couple of restaurants as a band dinner, like with the crew, the whole crew and the band. It's just when we did that, it was basically regular dinners. There were no partying. It's just like come in, eat, drink, go back to the hotel. That was, and but sometimes people go crazy about it. I learned a lot about that. So don't believe what the media says. Really, don't believe that. Oh my God.
Yeah, it did seem a bit crazy, some of the numbers that were mentioned. I can't remember what they were, but it seemed a bit far-fetched. I didn't imagine you were all party animals. It didn't seem like, no, not at all.
It was really a super chilled tour.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I have to say.
Good. So let's talk a little about your music releases so far. So you've got I think 2 albums and 1 EP out at the moment. Is that correct? Under your own name?
2 albums and 2 EPs and a couple of singles.
Nice. Yeah. So you compose this music yourself as well, right? With some help with some members of a band you play with.
Yeah.
How do you write it to showcase the drums, or do you write it just to write music? Or how do you do that?
I would say, as I started writing in this direction, it was definitely showcasing the drums, because it started as I was studying at the university, and I had a recital to play, and I just wrote something which was super simple, actually, and I wrote that for vocals, for lyrics. And at some point I thought, okay, maybe I just change my main idea and just play a bit more drums and make it to a drum play along thing. And that was Wild Boy, actually, the first song I released.
Wow.
And yeah, and so it started that way, and people seemed to like it, and so I moved on in this direction to write music. But in the meanwhile, it's definitely different. In the meanwhile, it's less about the drums. I mean, the drums are still in focus because when I write coming from the drums. So drums is first, or probably sometimes also the harmonies are first, but the drums have still the main focus in the end. And but it's definitely different and changed a lot over the last 3 or 4 years since the band is there, since I'm playing with the band, and the guys bringing in their ideas, and everything changed a little bit, and it's more for everyone and less for just drummers.
Well, that's cool. I think that it makes the music a bit more accessible to people who just don't play the drums. I remember when I first listened to your stuff, I was really impressed because a lot of, I guess, clinician drummers bring out music, and I find it difficult to listen to because even though the drumming is great, I'm not enjoying the music. But with your music, I really did enjoy it because of all the melody, and it was funky, and it was great guitar playing and great electric bass playing and cool synths. And there was a lot to listen to. And I did find it really interesting compared to, I'd say most other, drum related music. I'd say yours is my favorite.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Honestly, yeah, it was cool. Yeah. And I think a lot of it like reminded me of, something maybe I'd hear on like a video game soundtrack or something like really cool with lots of energy. I thought it was really good. So
I probably should do more computer like game music, or I don't know, because this is what a lot of people say, because it's like the synths and the sounds of the synths, and also like there is no vocals.
Yeah.
But I saw that on other bands too, like comments of that sounds like a computer game. This is often because of there is no lyrics, there's no singer, and people often just recognize such music when they play their games. Yeah,
I suppose. I grew up listening to a lot of instrumental music because like I said, my dad played guitar. When we were younger, he got us into like guitarists like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and all that. So I grew up listening to that stuff, and most of it is instrumental. So I actually sometimes prefer music without a vocalist sometimes if I'm in the right mood. So yeah, I think it's really cool. And I love the artwork, everything that goes with it. I think it's a great package, which like represents you, lots of colors. But yeah, I just, anyone listening, if you haven't checked it out, go check out Anika's music. It's all on Spotify, but is there a way to buy physical copies as well if people want?
Oh yeah, actually on my website I have a shop where you can buy like physical CDs. Yeah.
There you go. Good. So head over there and check it out. Yeah, I really like it. One thing that obviously does come up, and we mentioned it earlier, is that you're quite well known for putting odd time groupings of notes and fills over sometimes 4/4 grooves. So for the drummers listening who maybe are not confident to try things like that, do you recommend a way that they can start, or any exercises for them to start exploring odd times and odd time signatures, if not just in 4/4?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is always to start with the biggest frame. I mean, it's hard to start with a 7/8 or a 5/8 or anything with 8 or 16s, So, but if you start with a 5/4 or a 7/4 or a 9/4, then it's easier because it's still feeling like a straightforward groove, but you add one more quarter note.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just adding a note and try to internalize this extended proof example. So, and from there you can always go like in the smaller frame, like in a 7/8 or a 9/8 or whatever. But I think starting with the bigger one is definitely helpful, because you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. You know, so at least it helped me to get into it a little bit. In the beginning, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And like myself, I predominantly have just played in pretty standard rock bands. There's been sometimes a bar where there's an extra note on it, but generally everything is in 4/4. So it's difficult to put it, like, especially playing with other musicians, getting used to doing things like that. So yeah, I guess these days I'm sure there's people, you could find tracks on YouTube where you can just jam along in 5/4 and stuff like that. I'm sure stuff like that exists. But yeah, really good advice. I probably need to do more of it myself. So I will try. But you've definitely inspired me to experiment with that a little bit more. It's just whether the guys in my band would appreciate it. Probably not. But you never know until you try.
Never know, yeah.
Have you got any upcoming shows or any more touring coming up, or clinics or anything like that in the near future or the next year?
Yeah, so I'm almost on the way to the USA with Jeff for another 2 months touring thing.
Wow.
And after that, I have a tour with my band. Like in December, we have a short tour, like 1 week. And then next year, we also have like a couple of tours going with my band. So I had to replace a couple of shows and move them into next year. Yeah, so we have a couple of touring things going on, and clinics, I have to say, clinics are kind of dead, actually. It's not happening much anymore. I just see that with other drummers too. There is like here and there is a clinic tour or clinics, but after COVID, it seems to be like really, really hard to restarting clinics for some reason. So I don't know if this will be coming back like it was before.
I hope so. Yeah, I guess I've seen a few, and some of my local drum shops have had a few small ones. Sadly, I think a few years ago you played the Drum Depot in Cardiff. I was on tour for that, so I couldn't go, unfortunately. But if you ever obviously come to Wales again, I'll be straight there if I'm not on tour myself. But yeah, I guess COVID did, destroy a lot of that, and it takes time to organize and promote these things. So, and I guess a lot of other drummers have maybe replaced their income, maybe they used to get from clinics with other work and maybe teaching. And I know a lot of people that do camps now, and things like that. So you're a teacher as well, right? You actually teach privately?
I teach, yeah. I do private lessons, and I'm also like the department chief of the university here in Mannheim.
Wow.
There's a pop music university where I just took over the drum department position during COVID, actually.
All right.
A nice move, actually.
Really good.
Yeah, so this is what I'm doing when I'm teaching. And I also do drum camps, of course. So we have a drum camp coming next year in south of France.
Ooh, nice.
That's really nice. And I do drum camps here and there.
Oh, great. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have to check that out. And yeah, I guess all that, people just need to follow you on social media and check your website for all the information about stuff like that. But one thing I was going to ask then, so if you're the head of the drum department in the university, how do you juggle that with all the touring you've been doing?
I mean, I have to be there myself just in 14 days, for a couple of hours to teach the students. I do the first semester, so that's this is fine. You don't have to prepare too many things for the first semester, and it's more or less the same for each semester then. So preparing it once is working out for the next years, or, at least so the basic stuff. So, and then you go more individual with the students. But everything else, like what is like organization part of it, I can do that from the road.
Ah, good, great.
That's really nice.
It's a perfect job, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really flexible. So if the tour goes on, like now, the tour goes over 9 weeks. So I just hired 3 drummers to just sub for me.
Yeah.
Lessons. So that's all fine.
That's amazing. I guess a lot of drummers are in that position where they do a bit of teaching, they do some live work, and it's great to find a few things that work with each other and that don't clash too much, because that's normally the problem. Even being in 2 different bands is difficult, because if one band gets an offer and then the other band's on tour, like someone's got to make a decision, or you've got to turn something down or get a dep. It's always a problem, and it's always something that I see people struggling with as a musician, not just a drummer, but just generally musicians have that problem. Because, unless you're in a huge, massive band with big record labels and record deals, you need to get the income from the different streams to really to make it work, and that's the reality of it. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. It's so important to have different income, like different things to work on. That really, really helped me through COVID also, like that I'm teaching and doing, like, I did a lot of studio recordings for other musicians actually. And then the lessons came up with the university and writing a book and all that stuff, So it's really, really helpful to have different things at the same time going on.
Apologies for interrupting this episode of Drum for the Song. I really hope you're enjoying it so far. I just wanted to take a few moments to tell you about my Patreon page. This is a place where you can support the podcast in exchange for some bonus content. You can head over to patreon.com/drum for the song. There are 3 tiers available at the moment. One is £3 a month, one is £5 a month, and the other one is £10 a month. Each tier grants you access to exclusive benefits, which include bonus episodes, early access to the main episodes, private Facebook group membership, merch discounts, discount on Motorhead beer as well as a monthly competition to win Motorhead beer, access to Skype chats with me, asking my guests questions, occasional free gifts like drumsticks, free tickets to Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons shows, and your name in the episode description. If you regularly enjoy the podcast and think you would enjoy those benefits too, please consider signing up. If you didn't already know, I do everything for this podcast all by myself. So I do all the contacting, all the research, all the interviews, all the audio editing, all the video editing, all the artwork, all the uploading. I write all the descriptions, I build the website, everything is just me. So essentially the money from the subscriptions helps me keep a bit of time free during my weeks so I can continue making the podcast for you guys. So again, that's patreon.com/drum for the song. Check it out and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Drum for the Song podcast.
The book sounds interesting. Is that something that's already out, or is that coming soon?
Oh, it's already out. I wrote the book over like a period of 4 years, I guess. Ooh. And I just finished it in COVID because there were the time to do it, and released it. We released it also like just 2 months later. And that was really, really helpful. And it's called the Pet Book because it comes from, I got this idea because I was traveling a lot, and you can just keep your hands going for somehow, but often you don't improve. When you travel and practice, it doesn't really seem that it fits together, you know. And with the pad book, I just wrote down a lot of ideas how you still can improve your skills even on a simple practice pad, and not just doing your usual rudiments to keep the hands going. So that's for when you're touring. So I take that with me on tour, and or if you are just for your hobby playing drums and you don't have the time to practice all day on the drum set, so that's a good thing, like working with the pad book then.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I'll check that out, because I've got a big tour coming up in Germany actually, and I could do with something to practice in before sound check and things like that. I'll check that out. Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned doing lots of studio recordings. Do you have your own studio, or do you go somewhere local to do that, or how does that work?
No, I go somewhere local. So I'm working with my producer actually for oh my God, it's already 10 years now.
Wow.
We're working together, and he owns a studio where I always go to record the drums, like for myself or for other musicians. So and he knows my sound, like, 100%. So that's easygoing, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I know a lot of people have home studios now and they offer remote recordings, but it depends where you live, obviously, whether you can actually have real drums. So yeah, with regards to acoustic drums, do you have anywhere at home where you can play acoustic drums?
I have a rehearsal room. I rent a rehearsal room just like 5 minutes away from my apartment. So that's really nice. So I have 2 drum sets in there for teaching.
Nice.
And for rehearsing. It's also mic'd, but the sound in this room is not good enough for professional recording. So I record my ideas for songwriting, quick ideas and stuff like this, but nothing like serious, nothing professional.
I understand. So if you've got access to a professional studio, obviously, especially if that's local, you might as well do that. Sounds like a plan, really. I had a few other little things I wanted to ask you about before we moved on to your actual equipment that you use, because I find that's really interesting. When I kind of should have asked it earlier. So when you're playing in a band, whether it's your own band or with Jeff Beck, or playing a clinic, how is that different to you in your mind or physically?
Oh, it's different on each situation, actually. So let's start with the clinics. So the clinics are tough because you have a lot of drummers sitting in front of you, watching your hands and feet, and you feel really like an ape in a like in a zoo or something like that. So at least in the beginning, I felt a lot like this. I felt so uncomfortable without my band, without playing with a band actually at all. That was totally weird. But of course, I got used to it after all those years. But it's still different. So I need to practice and rehearse those songs I'm playing on, because I feel it's so different playing in front of just drummers in the audience. So, but with my band, we're playing the same material, but more free. We have more improvisation parts, and everything is also like it's just different because it's more. It's a human feel on stage.
Yeah.
Playing the clinics, it's just like you play along you play along your laptop, so to speak, and that's really stiff on some point. And with the band, it's more free. You have more conversation on stage, and also the energy I put in, I feel that's so different to clinics. It's really, really like energetic to me, and the same with Jeff. Jeff is also like super energetic. He is also like putting a lot of energy into his guitar and emotion. And you were there, and everyone who knows Jeff knows what I'm talking about. And I just try to catch what he's doing, like energy wise and also like playing wise. He's improvising a lot, and I just try to listen to what he's playing and catch it and jump on it and give him energy when he needs that. And that's probably the difference also to my band, because in my band I know exactly what's happening. I wrote all these songs, and it's more that I am in the position that I improvise a lot, and everyone else has to adjust to what I am doing. And with Jeff, it's the opposite way. But I would say for my setup, the setup is almost the same in each situation. What I do is I choose the snares probably different, that like the main snares, and the cymbals are definitely different. The drum heads are the same as long I have my drum set,
right?
Like my personal kit, because I know what works best on those shells. But with loaner kits, it's sometimes different. So
I know how that feels. I've had a lot of loaner kits just for one-off festivals this summer, and generally, good quality. It's just not what you use or what you're used to using, and sometimes different sizes and things. And
yeah, absolutely,
it throws you off a little bit. But I'm much more comfortable playing my own. So let's talk about like the endorsements that you've got at the moment. So as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, it's Tama, Meinl, Promark, Evans. Is there anything else? Is there other little bits and bobs that you use?
I use also biodynamic mics.
Oh yeah.
So that's basically it.
Yeah. And you've got quite a unique sound. Like when I listen to you, totally opposite to what I play. I play big, loud cymbals, pasty cymbals, and things like that. But your cymbal sounds are always dark and dry sounding. It suits the music really well. And I think it's important because when you're playing so many notes, you need a drier sound for those notes to be heard properly, and so they don't blend into the next note. So I think it's great what you do. The kit always sounds great, whether it's recordings on YouTube or at the live show. It sounded really nice in that hall, the theater. I haven't seen many, I'd say, rock band. I don't know if that is strictly a rock band, but there's guitars and bass and real drums. It's one of those venues where sometimes you'll get a pop singer or, something with a backing track or an orchestra. So it was cool to hear real drums in that room.
For Jeff Beck, it was actually I choose just brilliant cymbals. It was the kind of opposite of what I usually play, but it suits his music and his sound way better than the dark ones.
That makes sense.
This is what I mean. So I just choose different cymbals fitting to the music or to the artist or whatever. So for touring, it's always a bit different.
It's nice to have access to so many cymbals. I remember when I looked on the Meinl website, there's so much choice. It's great. You can any sound that you want, you can achieve. And it must be so great having the relationship with those guys and the support from those guys to get what you need. And one thing I want to ask about that is quite unique is the way you angle your cymbals. So would you like to explain that to some of the drummers listening and why?
You mean I angled the cymbals like some crashes away?
Yeah.
Me, like in the opposite position. Yeah. So now I don't do that too much often anymore, but it's because my cymbals got a little bit higher again. So when you have the cymbals super low, like super close to the hi-hat or to the toms, like super tight to everything, then you can't even crash riding the cymbals in a good way, so I realized that I have just more control over my crashes when I angle them away from me a little bit. And then also like the way you play the cymbals is different. and so I'm
Yeah.
back in the day, I just played the cymbals more from like the top when I'm angling them away. So because you're just pushing them down, basically from the top, you're pushing them down, and it's a straightforward movement when you do that instead of crash riding it from the side. You know, it's a lot of rock drummers that have their cymbals super high and super straight, and then they're crash riding them from the side, and then sticks are breaking, and you know, whatever happens. But so now I still play the crashes from the top, but they are still not still, they are going higher again.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I guess that there's lots of benefits to that. It's less bleed on the tom microphones and things like that. I understand. Sometimes if I'm in the recording studio, they've literally asked me to put my cymbals up higher than I would like to, just for the sound.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one point. But also, I got a lot of cymbals in the meanwhile on my drum set, so I have to stack them in the way of not really stack them on top to each other, but the stands are like in different levels in height, and so this is why they're getting higher naturally, you know. Yeah.
To fit all the different sounds in. Yeah, I understand. Big question then. Are there any big goals you haven't achieved yet that you'd like to achieve at some point in your career?
Yeah, there are a lot of goals actually. I mean, touring with a big artist is just happening right now. That was for a long time on my list, but not in priority, but on my list somewhere. But I also have on my list of goals to achieve, to play with my bands on some big jazz festivals.
Oh, nice.
This is where I'm working on. So we start really we started little, and we now have bigger gigs, I would say, and probably in some years it will happen. So, but this is my goal, which is priority, of course.
Yeah.
Because of our own music and stuff.
Yeah, I can totally understand, and I'm sure you'll get there very soon. Are there any particular festivals that you'd love to play that you haven't done?
Montreux.
Yeah.
Montreux. Montreux Jazz Festival. North Sea Jazz. Definitely, that would be the two festivals which are in the end of my list, the highest.
Cool.
Goal.
Well, I really hope you achieve that. And
yeah, we're working on it.
Play in the next few years. It'd be great to see you on those lineups there. Yeah, that's great. And before we move on towards the end, I've got a few questions from a few of my patrons on my Patreon page. They get to ask you a few questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So this one is from Pietro. I think it would be cool to hear about Anika's experience playing at the Drumeo Festival in 2020.
Oh.
Do you have any memories about that specifically?
Absolutely good memories. It was also the last show I did last festival before everything got locked, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that was a great show. I can remember that I was quite nervous because they recorded everything and there were just this one take. That's it. I had a couple of new songs with me. I can remember that. So I was quite nervous, but it was also a big fun because like Chris Coleman was playing, then Ghost Note was playing, and they killed it on stage. I remember that. Then I saw the first time Cindy Blackman on stage. Like I just was like 5 meters away on the side of the stage. So seeing and hearing her play was like just amazing. I mean, the power and everything. Oh my God. So that was actually one of the great festivals I've played. It was, of course, really well organized and the audience were amazing. They gave me a lot of energy back, and yeah, I felt just good. I have just good memories on this festival.
Yeah, amazing. And Yeah, a lot of that is on YouTube, I believe, for anyone that wants to check that out, as well as the other performances. But yeah, nice one. Very good question, Pietro. He's also got one more, which I think is very interesting. Very much like Larnell Lewis, you use or used to use a snom with the Evans hydraulic blackhead. So the question is, were they inspired by each other or by someone else, or is this a complete coincidence?
I can say from my side, it is a complete coincidence because I've played a very low tune snare for a long time. I mean, I started using this snare sound as I was 17.
Wow.
So I was playing in a dance electro band. So I just had kick, snare, hi-hat, and a crash. And the snare with this sound was my main snare, and I always liked it. And as my bands and the style changed, I was not in use of this sound anymore. But at some point I thought, man, I need to get this snare sound back because I just love it, And then I did the regular left side snare thing, but I realized, I never really use it the way I could probably use it. It's just like a regular snare sound sometimes in a song. And then I started to just put the snare in different positions on the drum set, and I realized as I recorded some jams in my rehearsal room, I realized, whoa, okay, what's going on when I have the snare on the right side? It sounds super wicked. It sounds super interesting to hear those fills, and you think, what kind of cross-sticking is going on here? And so I kept it this way. And what I do with this snare sound on the right side is more that I'm using it as a tom, including it a lot into my fills. And I guess Larnell and also Spud, which he also has a snare on the right side, they using it more as a snare in the way of a real snare function. And for me, it's more like a snare sound in fills.
Yeah, I totally get that. Sometimes it's difficult to go back to this original snare position if you want to include it in between toms and stuff. I totally understand. But yeah, it sounds amazing. It does sound so cool. I really want to. I haven't tried it myself. I've tried side snare, and yeah, like you said, apart from using it instead of your normal snare, just for a different sound, it's kind of difficult to get to, and things like that. But no, it's really cool, and I'm sure lots of people have copied you or will copy you going forward. but it's cool. It's cool to be someone that inspires other people, and I think you're in the position you're in, and the exposure you've had. That's always going to happen, and I'm sure it's a compliment, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another question from Kenny. How much did you know about Jeff Beck before you were asked to play with him?
That's a good question. I knew a couple of songs of Jeff Beck, but I wasn't really into his music. But my guitar player, which is also my producer, he always introduced me to guitar music, and also like Steve Vai, Satriani, Jeff Beck, all these guys I've listened to because of him. So thanks. But I had to listen to his albums and everything I could find on Spotify and also YouTube, and I still listen to his music. Even if we don't play these songs, I listen to different albums because there is a lot of good stuff on it, honestly. So not just guitar playing, also the other instruments, like what you said, there were some great drummers on his albums, and I mean, Jan Hammer on keyboards, and good stuff.
Really good. And I should have asked earlier on, actually, did the set list change much during the tour?
Not much, but there were some changes a couple of times, yes.
Were they changes to songs that you'd already learnt in
Oh
preparation?
yeah. He just changed the songs we were rehearsing. So we rehearsed a bunch of songs. Like the show you have seen was like completely just a Jeff Beck show. So we had like 1.5 hours or something like this with just him playing guitar. So we had a lot of songs prepared, and then he basically switched a couple of songs during the tour, exchanged them through a couple of others we played in Cardiff. So yeah, absolutely.
No, I just thought I was wondering whether it would have changed a little bit when Johnny came into the field and that. So I was just wondering that. And were you trying to play? Obviously, with all the drummers that have played for him, were you trying to play their parts, or were you just trying to play like you? What did Jeff want?
Jeff didn't tell me at all what to play, actually.
Okay.
So I feel and I felt in the tour and still feel that I have a lot of freedom to play the way I'm playing. And I think we never talked about this. This is what I feel, is that he wants me to play how I'm playing. And he saw my videos. Something must have interesting to him. Otherwise he wouldn't have reached out. So and this is why I also started from beginning on trying to ignore who sat on this seat before, and not to learn parts exactly one-to-one. I of course listened to versions where Winnie was playing, and I also listened to versions where Simon was playing, but in the end I did my own version. And I think it's fine. At least I haven't heard anything else.
It was more than fine. It was really good. It was amazing. So congratulations again. So I've just got a little bit of a quick fire round for you. So not so much all drumming related questions. Some of them are, just so the listeners can get to know a little bit more about you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So number one, what's your favorite food?
Oh, my favorite food is probably oh my god, now I have to choose. It's pasta.
Pasta. Good
Pasta.
choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. Favorite movie?
Silence of the Lambs.
Ooh. Guitar or bass?
Bass.
I'm more of a bassist myself. Nylon or wood tip?
Wood tip, definitely.
Always. Difficult one. John Bonham or Neil Peart?
Oh my god, how can this be a choice?
They're very different. I know. I guess it's more inclined with how, who inspired you more, maybe.
Then it's Bonham.
Cool. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Stones.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
Big or small venue?
Small venue.
Cool. Favorite time signature?
5/16.
5/16. I definitely haven't had that one yet. First person to say that. Favorite rhythm section in a band? So a bassist and drummer in the same band.
Oh my god. Probably Ghost Notes, Spud and Mono Neon.
Cool. Favorite album of all time?
John Scofield Uber Jam.
Cool.
Uber Jam.
Favorite drummer of all time?
Oh my god, it's getting more worse. Favorite drummer of all time, Jeff Porcaro.
Cool. That's fair enough. Very good choice. And the last question now, this is one that I ask every guest. If you could create your own band with yourself playing the drums, including anyone that's dead or alive, who would you have playing the other instruments? Apart from people that you've already played with, though. So not including people you've already played with.
I definitely would love to play Okay, I've played with him. I cannot mention him. Oh man. Okay. Let's just think about it for a second.
Yeah. Take your time.
Okay. Probably on guitar, Steve Lukather.
Oh yes. Yeah. Good choice.
Oh, this is a weird band, but on bass, Hadrian Farrow.
Okay. Who's he from?
He's based in LA, I guess, but he's originally from France, I guess.
Okay. I'm not familiar with him. I'll have to check him out.
On piano, probably Chick Corea.
Very good choice.
Keyboards. Oh my god. Or no, it's piano. It's fine, right? So bass, guitar, piano. That's it. All right. Yeah. Band is done.
No vocals.
No vocal. No. I'm not into vocal music anymore.
No, I totally get it. It's I don't know what hasn't been done yet. Everything's been done. It's quite difficult to be original with a voice. But yeah, I totally know what you mean. Totally get it. But no, that was really cool. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Really enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing what you've got coming out in the future, and checking out some of the songs maybe I've missed out on. Hopefully get to see you live someday again. It'd be great to see you with your own band. Where are you touring with your own band? You didn't mention that.
So this year we just tour in Germany, probably Netherlands, and Austria or Switzerland, one of both. But as far as I know, the UK is on the list for next year. So
okay. Yeah. That'd be great. I'm sure there'll be lots of people interested in coming to see you. So yeah, people can check you out. Are you on all the social medias, or most of them? You've got the same handle on them all, or where can people go?
Like Instagram and Facebook and my website. So and YouTube, of course. These are the 4 main platforms, I would say. Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, I'll link them all in the description below as well.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
But thanks again. Have a lovely evening, and good luck on the American leg of the Jeff Beck tour. I'm sure it'll be a blast, and you'll be fine. Don't injure yourself. Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely my pleasure. I'll let you go now because I know it's quite late where you are, and we'll speak soon, maybe.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Drum for the Song podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Drum for the Song podcast. If you've enjoyed this, please consider liking the video and subscribing if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts. If you could leave me a review or comment, that would be fantastic too, as it helps other people discover this show. Please also consider sharing this with any family members or friends who might enjoy the content. You can also follow me on social media at Dane_drums or at Drum for the Song, or search for Drum for the Song on Facebook to follow the page and join the official Facebook group. If you'd like to support the podcast, you could purchase some merchandise from drumforthesong.com, or consider supporting me via Patreon from just £3 per month for additional exclusive content like bonus episodes, video calls with myself, competitions, discounts, and much more. Any additional support is always greatly appreciated, but I would like to give extra special thanks to my top tier Groove Master patrons, whose names are listed in the description below. My name is Dane Campbell, and thanks so much for watching or listening this far. If you're a drummer, don't forget to drum for the song.